It seems that light, that when you go from Atzmus to light, you don't yet have darkness. Or in Sof Lifnei HaTzimtzum doesn't have darkness yet. There's
his pashtus,
which implies a darkness. Two levels, let's say.
Because that oir means a presence already implies the non-presence. I know you. I'm aware of your presence. That already, in a very subtle way, obviously, allows for non-presence. The Etzem Ha'oir, you're right, does not have that capability. But because it's Oir, which means it's not the Etzem itself, it's not a Helem She'einu B'Mtzius. It is a presence. A presence already has a non-presence. This is what we said over here. The Chol Inyan Hu Atzilus Hu Bechinas Hagilui. What is the pshat? In Atzilus Hu Bechinas Hagilui. Bechinas Hagilui means presence. That's a bechina. That's why Atzilus is called the world, because it brings out the element of presence.
Even Atzilus close.
Okay, so Atzilus HaKlolis, it is on a much supreme manner, but the same thing, because Atzilus HaKlolis there is Etzem Ha'oir and Pashtus Ha'oir. Pashtus Ha'oir, this is Bechinas Hagil.
Atzilus HaKlolis is before the Tzimtzum?
Yeah. That's what he's saying, that the Oir Shempenei HaTzimtzum is called Atzilus HaKlolis. We quote the Rambam all the time, and we discuss it in various ways. And the Rambam says that the first thing is to know that there is a first being. And we have so pointed a first being, which means that yes comes before no. What kind of being is it? A being that comes not from non-being. What kind of being is it? So to us, this is called that to know that there is a presence. But in the being itself, there is no presence. There's no air. Because there is no not being. We, from our perspective, the first thing is, if you want to view the world and yourself and reality with Chokhmah, the first thing you have to do is recognize that the reality begins from being, not being. Despite the fact that there is no way that you can grasp that idea. That brings you up to the point of Chokhmah. Chokhmah is able to relate to it because Chokhmah is big. But only to relate to it, not to grasp it. All right. All right, so we're going to start, this is 5 lines from the beginning of the second section of AyinBase. The Ram begins Shelifnei HaTzimtzum, that this Inyan HaGilui, the principle of Gilui, which is the meaning of the word Atzilus, and the Oyer of Shelifnei HaTzimtzum, the Gilui element, this is Bechinas Pashtus Oyer. The element in the Oyer, which is called his Pashtus Oyer, this is the Gilui element. And we explained yesterday, hopefully clearly enough, that we should be able to relate to the concept. His Pashtus Oyer means the subset of the Oyer. The Oyer, how Oyer can be contrasted against darkness. How Oyer is not darkness. That's his Pashtus Oyer. Etzem Oyer is not darkness. It's what it is. So at the end of that line, Hine.
Who is it making this statement to? It is not darkness. That etzem, it's making the statement etzem or is not darkness.
We said before that Etzem does not make any statements.
Etzem or also doesn't make.
No, Etzem we say they're the same darga as Atzmus. The whole thing is that as a result of representing himself in Oyer, there is also the Hispashtus coming along with it, because that's what Oyer is. Oyer can be viewed as a subset. Like we were saying in the Moshe of the sun. The sun itself doesn't have Oyer. Then there is the Oyer HaShemesh. The initial Oyer HaShemesh, as we said, is also it's day. It doesn't have darkness. But because it's Oyer, it can also be identified from Chitzonisike perspective, not from its etzem, where it becomes his pashtus, where it becomes Oyer lehoyer, a subset of the Oyer, light versus darkness.
But this is not so with the hispashtus of the etzem or.
Etzem doesn't have hispashtus.
That level, the hispashtus or is
in Oyer there are two elements.
Okay. All right.
That's the point. This is what transitioned from Atzmus into Oyer. The Oyer itself is the same as Atzmus, because it's Etzem. It represents Etzem. But as a result of the fact that Etzem represents itself in Oyer, there is also the Chitzenis, the Hispashtus Oyer, the Oyer element, as we spoke about the other day.
And this one is saying, the hispashtus or is saying, there is or. This is Lifnei HaTzimtzum?
Yeah, I'm talking about Lifnei HaTzimtzum. Hine. Okay, so now it's 5 lines from the beginning of that. At the end, Hine klolus ha'oir. Thus, we have to understand like this. We're talking about the oir Lifnei HaTzimtzum, the initial oir. Klolus ha'oir. The oir in general, in essence, so to speak, hu bivchinas b'tzalmeinu. The kolus oir, the oir overall, is bivchinas b'tzalmeinu. Qualifies to be described as b'tzalmeinu. And what is b'tzalmeinu? B'tzalmeinu, we already translated, and now we're bringing it again. B'chinas tzuro atzmis. which refers to Tzura Atzmis. Tzura Atzmis means the essential Tzura. What's an essential Tzura? A Tzura that cannot be distinguished between the Etzem and that which the Tzura is Messiah. The Tzura Atzmis. It is called B'Tzalmeinu.
Sorry, B'Tzalmeinu, the translation was...
I'm sorry?
The translation of B'Tzalmeinu was?
In our form.
In our form.
You said it can't distinguish between what and what? It can't distinguish between the Etzem and...
And the Tzura. That means Tzura Atzmis.
This is like Etzema Or.
Okay.
Etzema Or is also this.
One second. We already spoke about it. Let's continue.
Okay.
It says, Klolus oil, the oil in general, is bibchinas. Oil in general is of the status of B'Tzalmeinu, of Tzura Atzmis. We spoke the other day about the whole concept of oir. If oir is a creation, like that from Atzmos, so why you call it oir? You call it Mamitzias. What's the difference between Kelim and oir? So the whole lengthy discussion here is to point out that oir is of a different presence, even though it is a creation, quote unquote. It's not the Etzem. Nevertheless, it has the element of Tzura Atzmis. So we explained. You have to remember this principle. What is oir? Oir is something which exists only in the presence of an etzem. Let's take. We're not going to get the point. Let's take the following thought process. Everybody will be able to relate to this. Many things come to mind. Just this came up, and the Rebbe spoke about Fabrengen. The Rebbe spoke about Fabrengen one time as a result of Mivtza Neshek. Neshek is the Neder Shabbos Kiddush. But women went around and urging girls and women to light candle Shabbos. So this girl, and then they got feedback. The Rebbe asked them that all the letters that they received as a result of this thing, they should collect it, and they printed 2 books about it. So the Rebbe mentioned the Fabrengen that there was this little girl who decided to light candles on Friday night. So she lit the candles. Her parents, who did not subscribe to it, did not relate to it. Her mother did not light the candles. But when the candles were lit, she could not bring herself to turn the TV on. So as long as the candles were lit, the TV was off. Now, this is due to the message of the candles, not the fire itself. This message is not being spoken. What is this message? Where is this message coming from? From the very presence of the candles. The presence of the candles, because there's a reality to it, automatically has a message. What message does it have? It tells you about itself. But in itself, it doesn't have a message. It is what it is. But because it is what it is in such a profound and a true way, it's with the etzem, automatically there's a message that comes out. The message is fully representative of itself. This is called oir. Knowing the self is from outside. That's a message, and this message is representative of the self. That's what's called oir. That's why it's called oir, because there's no substance to it. There's no tangible element that goes along with the oir. It's just the presence of the etzem. And the presence of the etzem automatically has this effect. Not because it creates anything, does it? But because knowing the etzem has that effect.
After explaining Atzma or and Mishpachas or, why is it, and that was really what I wanted to ask, what are we now being told with Salmenu?
We are coming back, we are coming back and pointing out that oil per se is B'Tzalmenu. Oil is not a creation in the true sense of the word. Oil is in from Tzalmenu.
You mentioned some time before that oil is Hashem.
That we're going to
You
come to
mentioned
that.
something. I heard it over there. Oil is Hashem.
Okay, but that's why it's called oil. Oil is, it's attesting that there is an etzem. That's what oil is. So this is what we're saying like this. Klolus ha'oil hu b'bchinas b'tzalmenu. The oil in general is in that category of b'tzalmenu, because that's what oil represents. Tzuro atzmis. Why did the candles prevent them to put on the TV? Did the candles have a special message about TV? Or did they have a special message about Chilul Shabbos? We didn't speak about Chilul Shabbos. We represented the essence of Shabbos, the essence of what these candles are. And then then there's the oil, the effect of it. That's a tzura atzmis. So oil in general, that's what clothes oil is b'chinas tzura atzmis. V'hagam, although the b'chinas hispashtus oil, that the hispashtus, that the aspect of hispashtus oil, because we said that in oil there is also hispashtus oil, and yet we say clothes oil in general is tzura atzmis. That is true even though b'chinas hispashtus oil harei zeh b'chinas ha'ora de ha'ora. Hispashtus oil is a ha'ora de ha'ora. So if it is ha'ora de ha'ora, which means that this is far off from the etzem. That's what the hispashtus oil. There is the oil, the tzura atzmi, the oil, and then there is this ha'ora de ha'ora. Ha'ora de ha'ora, this is the oil that's mislabish and keli. This is the oil that can tolerate a contrast, that it's oir because of contrast with darkness. It's with ha'ora de ha'ora. Where is ha'ora de ha'ora recognized where there is darkness? Therefore, how do we, mikol mokoim, yet still, harei zesh bebchinas tzuro asmis. Yet still, it still is in that category, has that quality of tzura asmis. Shekmoi ho'etzem. Which means that tzura asmis means that it is like the etzem. I want to reiterate something I mentioned many times, and hoping that eventually it'll strike. Even though we get light here, and we are light from the sun, and we are actually taking the subset of light, the deflected light, that illuminates the physical object, makes it visible, and all that we discussed yesterday. Inherent in that whole phenomenon of light is the fact that there is a place where light is preeminent. This is why the light has that effect. Which is why we can take visibility for granted. Oh yeah, it's visible. Because there is the essence of light. Even though what we actually have is only a subset, a deflected light. Sorry, I didn't want you to miss that.
Sorry, I forgot the meaning of the word preeminent.
Preeminent means ruling.
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 The primary presence.
The main.
That's right.
There was a logic that you said yesterday about this. I just don't remember it. Why there has to be a place that's only light.
In order for us to be able to relate to this phenomenon of light, you have to know that there is a reality to light.
The reality is when it's
When it's preeminent, when it's the reality itself. This is going back to the Rambam. That's the preeminent reality. And then, when you come into Mitzvahs of the world, you can say, okay, here this is a godly element. But if you lack that recognition, then you won't be able to relate to the godly element now, no matter how much you discuss it and point to it.
You couldn't have just his pashtus or
Couldn't have just his pashtus. Pashtus is nothing.
his pashtus
His pashtus is mislabish in the kelim, and this is exactly what's happening in the world.
attributed to the kelim.
And you lose. That's right. You lose completely the oil element, and you see only the kelim.
So it has to refer back to a truth that's only
right. In kelim terms, you would say refer back. In oil terms, you say it is representing that. Why refer back? When you enter this room and you see tables set up, you don't refer back to the person who put it up.
So this is a human table.
This is a human setup. The referring back is a helm, a terrible helm. And Mishmai says, "Mekomakim hareze v'chinas tzura atzmis shekmei ho'etzem." V'chinas tzura atzmis, which is shekmei ho'etzem, which is like the etzem. To explain this, v'hinei ha'hefresh ben ha'ora v'ha'ora di ha'ora. What distinguishes a ha'ora, which is oil in general, v'ha'ora di ha'ora. But we said ha'ora de ha'ora, this is mamash Ayin from his pastor, that's mislabish in Keli. And yet we say that also is shekmei ho'etz. So the difference between ha'ora de ha'ora, to explain this insight, this idea, because a different ha'ora de ha'ora mavui b'makimacher api mashakoseh Pikei Rebbe Eliezer. It's explained elsewhere based on what it says in Pikei Rebbe Eliezer. Ad sheloi nivra ha'olam ha'yahu u'shmoi bilvad. That up until the time that the world was created, before the world was created, there was he and his name. Bilvad. Only. What is this allusion? He and his name. The Shmei Hu Bechinas Oirin Seif. Shmoi, his name, that is the Oirin Seif. Hu Bechinas Oirin Seif. I'm going to stop for a moment and try to focus in this term Oir Ein Sof. Now, essentially, because of everything that's being explained here, we can we can correlate Oir Ein Sof and Etzem. Says Etzem Oir Ein Sof Latin, because oil carries in of Etzem. But what is the term Oir Ein Sof? The infinite light. As we explained recently, many times before, Ein Sof, there is no such thing as a cumulative Ein Sof. You can't accumulate an infinite quantity of finite entities. So therefore, when we say it's Oir Ein Sof, we do not mean to say it's an oil so huge that it's Ein Sof. That's not the point. It's not the point to describe how big the oil is and what's the significance about this. How's Ein Sof revealed to us any kind of significant truth? Time is creeping up very quickly, and hopefully I'm not going to go over time too much, and maybe I'll finish up tomorrow. We spoke in the past about the principle of domain, that a person in his home is everywhere, in every crack and crevice of his home, he is present. And as big as the home would be, he's automatically there. If he expands his house, he doesn't have to then expand himself in order to occupy the new arrival, new acquired space. He's there automatically. How big a home can a person occupy? I want you to think in the significance of this. A human being is by nature finite. It's a concept. He has a limit of what he can conceptualize, what he can relate. If you give a person who has got his eye on tremendous riches, and you put him up to live in the Empire State Building, will he be able to relate to it? Will he be able to think of the Empire State Building as this dwelling? Hello? What do you think?
Pretty spacious. Too much.
It's not space. He's completely out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which means this is pointing out, yes, a human being can expand, but he can expand within the realm of a human being. Beyond that, he's not there. When you say that the oil, this is the oil of the human being, this expansion, this domain. If you say the oil is Ein Sof, means that the etzem is of such caliber that he knows no limits. Okay, we have to interrupt now. Have a good day. If there is anybody online that didn't hear,
Yes, sir.
we're cutting off.
Feel suspended?
Huh?
I asked you if you feel suspended.
Suspended in thin air.
Huh?
Suspended in air.
Yeah, suspended movement. You can go into the further explanation.